It's now 7:04. We'll call this December 13th, 2022 meeting of the Rossmoor Community Services District to order. Mr. Mendoza, roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Barkey?
Here.
Director DeMarco?
Here.
Director Maynard?
Here.
Director Shade?
Here.
And Second Vice President Searles.
Here. All right, we'll proceed with the presentation of colors by Troop 657G. Stand. Thank you. And now to present the national anthem, Haley Dunn.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank
you, Haley.
And now, Director Barkey, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Please join me in pledging to the greatest symbol of victory that the world has ever known, and liberty. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All righty. Senator Nguyen is running a little behind, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with the next item on the agenda. That is a proclamation of appreciation to outgoing President and Board Director Jeffrey Ripps. Jeffrey, you want to join me up here?
Whatever your call. Here.
Jeffrey, thank you so much. Whereas Jeffrey Ripps served on the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District for 2 years, beginning November 2020, and provided outstanding leadership as president for 2022, leading RCSD board meetings and attending events. And whereas President Jeffrey Ripps supported advancements in technology, new accounting systems, the implementation of cashless transactions, and administrative efficiencies, including the integration of a new reservation system to serve Rossmoor residents more effectively. And whereas Director Ripps helped guide the district through COVID-19 pandemic by establishing protocols to protect residents and employees, while also supporting the County of Orange Senior Meal Gap Program for residents. And whereas, as Director, Jeffrey Ripps was involved in coordinating many improvements to district parks and facilities that included the upgrade of the horseshoe amenity and sand volleyball court at Rossmoor Park, and centralizing the irrigation system at all district facilities. And whereas, during his tenure on the board, Jeffrey Ripps was instrumental in bringing the farmers market to the community, supported the annual Arbor Day celebrations, and participated in annual family festivals, winter festivals, family fun nights in partnership with the Youth Center, and the addition of a health fair. And whereas Director Jeffrey Ripps supported the district in resolving quality of life issues with regard to changing the district's street sweeping schedule for enhanced service. And whereas during his tenure as president, he conducted many meetings and public forums for the community to share their thoughts about pickleball, including a test and evaluation process. And whereas Director Jeffrey Ripps devoted many hours to serving on various RCSD committees, including Budget, Personnel and Contract Administration, Parks and Facilities, Rossmoor Advisory, and the Community Satisfaction Survey Ad Hoc Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District extends our sincere gratitude to Jeffrey Ripps for his service and wish him the best in the future. Best of luck, buddy. Thank you. And the board would like to present to you this gavel. We do sincerely appreciate your service. Personally, I appreciate the joy, the accomplishment, the satisfaction that you had when you would come to the family festivals and seeing everyone having a great time, seeing what a great community we live in and how instrumental you were to that, and I really appreciate that. And so on behalf of the board, thank you so much. Thank you. And Lauren, we have some flowers for you as well, because we know that none of us on this board serve alone, and we're very thankful to our families and support as they have to deal with some of the nights and days that we have. So thank you, Lauren. So yeah.
I have my photographer with me.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Just a quick, just take this up.
Hello. I just want to say thank you to all of the board members, to Jeff and Nathan and Tony and Mark Nidimkin, who's not here. Really appreciated working with you and learning from you and your guidance and patience for when I made mistakes. Really appreciate it. And anytime that people step forward and say, I'm going to serve the community, I think it's an amazing honor. And so thank you to all of you. And I want to wish Michael welcome back. And to Joe, congratulations to both of you. And I look forward to seeing Rossmoor continue to flourish with all of you here at Leading the Way. So thanks for saying yes. And Joe, I think you're a gift to the community, and thank you for everything you do. And Tarquin, it's been an honor working with you, and thank you for all you do for our community. And thank you. I'm so glad to see this place packed tonight. No, just kidding. But thank you, everybody, for coming out and supporting the community and everything that you do. Rossmoor is an amazing place to live, and it's because of all of our residents that make that happen. So thank you.
Alrighty. The next item on the agenda will be item C, the Orange County Fire Authority Community Relations Education, presented by Chris Berry. Ms. Berry, would you like to come forward?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Berry. I'm with the Orange County Fire Authority. First, I want to thank the board and thank all of you for having me here tonight. So I have the privilege of being a community educator as well as a reserve firefighter. So I sometimes get to go out in the community like tonight and educate people on some of the things that I see firsthand going out on calls. And tonight, I want to talk about home fire safety, specifically during the holidays. Home fire safety is always a concern, but we tend to see the highest proportion of structure fires in the homes during the holidays for a variety of reasons that we'll get into here in a minute. So real quick, just a little bit about us as an organization. The Orange County Fire Authority serves the community of Rossmoor. We serve a total of 23 cities and unincorporated areas within Orange County. By now, I would imagine that's an outdated statistic. Got to be over 2 million residents, and we actually just opened our 78th fire station this past week. So real quick, I want to talk about just a basic concept of what is fire. Fire is essentially a chemical reaction that you need 3 things to produce: fuel, heat, and air, or oxygen. And I always make a point of bringing this up because even though if you've ever seen a structural firefighting operation take place, it looks incredibly well coordinated, very complex, which it is. But what they're actually doing is very simple science to put that fire out. And that concept is going to come into play in a few minutes here when we get into one of the other topics. So real quick, I want to ask you guys a question. Can anyone guess the top 3 factors or causes of fire in the house? Electrical. It's close. That's electrical. Someone said gas. Home heating. Home heating is one of them. But that's the number 2 and 3. So what's the number 1 cause of fires in the house? Something people do every day, pretty much. Cooking, exactly. And during the holidays, each of those 3 things are exacerbated even more. Cooking, people are cooking unusual foods, a lot of food, there's chaos going on around the house. Electrical, anyone who's seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Chevy Chase, Clark Griswold, got cords on wires, on extension cords to light up the house. And then home heating. Obviously, it's, we have it a lot better here than a lot of other places in the country, but it's still pretty chilly outside. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of hazards specific to the holidays that are important to kind of be aware of. And really, a lot of this will seem like common sense, but when you really think about it, a lot of fires in the household are caused by very silly mistakes, common sense type things. We're cooking a lot of food in large quantities. We have Christmas trees. I think you mentioned Christmas trees a few minutes ago. We fill our house with home decor that is often cloth, some kind of fabric, or some kind of combustible petroleum-based product. With candles, a lot of extra lighting, and increased home heating usage. So real quick, I'm going to dive in on cooking fires because that is the number 1 cause. Up there, if you can see that statistic, 31% of all fires that are attributed to cooking come from leaving food unattended. And literally every night, every time I see a structure fire call come in, I always tune in on the radio or look at the call notes and try to figure out what actually was going on. And in, pretty much every day between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m., you can almost put money on it that if there is a structure fire call, it's attributed to food on the stove, usually in some way, shape, or form. And we have very simple reminders for people when they're cooking. Don't leave your food unattended. If you do have to run into the other room real quick, make sure no children have access to what you're cooking. Keep a safe zone around the food, and set a timer for yourself. We all have phones that have timers on it, or get a kitchen timer to remind you not to forget about the food. You would think that it might be hard to forget about something that you're cooking, but it happens all the time, every single day in Orange County. And really the same things apply even more so during the holidays. Raise your hand if you've ever been cooking on Thanksgiving or Christmas. There's kids running around, it's loud, you've got people at your house that you're not used to having, you're entertaining guests. It's distracting. There's a lot going on. Sometimes there might be alcohol present, So it can be very easy to kind of get distracted and forget about what you're doing. Thanksgiving, I know we already passed Thanksgiving, but that still kind of applies here. Has anyone ever deep fried a turkey? That's gotten a lot more popular in recent years. I think it's the most delicious way to eat a turkey, but every year people burn their house down by deep frying a turkey. You always want to make sure that if you're doing that the turkey is completely defrosted and that there's no ice on it. Above all, do it outside 10 feet away from your house and have a fire extinguisher nearby. Electrical fires. We're running a lot of extra lights outside. Now, electrical fires is one thing that, we want you to take common sense approaches to how you set up your lighting and your electrical system. Do not run too many plugs into a single outlet. Don't chain a bunch of extension cords. And any major appliances at your house, make sure they're plugged directly into the wall. A lot of people don't realize that extension cords, even though you can plug things into them, they're not rated necessarily to handle the power draw that large appliances have, whereas the outlet directly in your wall is. These are kind of some powerful pictures up here of some things that we've seen, and in each of those cases, the fire or the damage that resulted was completely preventable. That middle picture, especially during Christmas time, it looks like it's right there in a Christmas tree as well. So it doesn't really get more dangerous than that. But you always want to make sure that you're looking out and inspecting your cords and everything every time you use them. Be looking for damage. Because the tricky thing about electrical fires is even though we want to encourage people to try to tackle issues on your own as you see them, not everyone is an electrician. And electricity is one of those things that unless you really know what you're doing, you should call or hire an electrician if you notice, especially any of these issues, anything with your actual electrical system in your house. Look for any melting, burning plastic smell, any discoloration around your outlets. That's evidence that you may have a short or some kind of issue with your outlet, and we definitely recommend hiring an electrician because we don't want you to hurt yourself, because electricity is one of those things that, again, unless you really know what you're doing, we don't want you to get hurt trying to fix something. And then home heating, and I got to tell you, I work for the fire department, and right now, I was over at my mother-in-law's house the other day, and I walk in the kitchen, she's got a portable space heater sitting on the couch with blankets around it. There's an unattended candle in the kitchen, and I'm like, what do I do here so I don't get in trouble with my mother-in-law? But this isn't a good look when you work for the fire department. Every year we see, even in California, where it's not necessarily below freezing where we live, but portable space heater usage, you see it everywhere, at homes, in the workplace. And every year we see fires from people who put their portable space heater too close to furniture, just like you see in that picture on the right-hand side up there. And really, that's kind of another common sense thing. You don't want to put your space heater too close to anything that's very combustible. Portable space heaters also do share a very common thing with electrical fire safety. They use an astronomical amount of electricity, which is fine. But for that reason, you don't want to be plugging them into extension cords. You want them to go right into the wall, because that's kind of what they're designed to pull from. All right, I want to touch on Christmas tree safety real quick. Again, this is common sense for most people. Make sure you're keeping your tree watered. And as soon as Christmas is over, or very soon after, you want to make sure you get rid of your tree. Don't hang on to it, throughout January. Even if you do keep it watered, eventually Christmas trees do dry out naturally, no matter what, even if you're watering it every day. And the thing about Christmas trees is they basically, within seconds, your home will turn into a completely unsurvivable condition if they do catch on fire. The next slide here has a video that we'll try to play for you here, but it's not just the fire, it's the gases that are produced from the fire as well. And Christmas trees are so explosive that your home will be filled with toxic gas pretty quickly. You can see the timer in the bottom right a little bit. You can tell it's not sped up. This is real time. You can see some off-gassing from the carpet. And the entire carpet and every surface in the square foot of that room is on fire. Temperatures in that room got above 2,000 degrees pretty quick. Versus a Christmas tree that was watered every day. So you can see a big difference there. Even a freshly watered Christmas tree is still going to be flammable, and obviously we're not saying don't get Christmas trees. We all have Christmas trees, but the difference between the two might mean the difference in having enough time to get out of your house. Candles, common sense. If you leave the room, blow your candles out, okay? I got to tell my mother-in-law that when I get home. We also encourage you all to make sure you have a fire extinguisher at home. Generally what we say is within about 20 feet of anywhere in the house, you should be able to run and hopefully grab a fire extinguisher. And as you can see by that graph, there's several types, but I'll boil it down to something super simple. If you go to Lowe's, Home Depot, Target, Walmart, they all sell home fire extinguishers for very affordable prices, and they are all typically what we call ABC combination fire extinguishers, which basically are made to hit the top 3 items on that chart, which really is any kind of fire that you would expect to get in your house. And very simple to use them. We have an acronym called PASS. First, you pull the pin. You aim at the base of the fire. You squeeze the handle and sweep from side to side, back and forth. Most important thing there is aiming at the base, not at the top, because the base is how you'll actually extinguish the fire. But if attacking a fire with a fire extinguisher means that if you don't do it right and the fire could spread around you and you no longer have a way out, don't do it. If the fire looks like it might be a little too big for you to tackle with a fire extinguisher, don't do it. Most important thing is that you get out safely and get out alive and call 911 so that we can come and help. Not only just having smoke alarms, but having working smoke alarms reduces your chance of dying in a house fire by over 50%. That also goes for carbon monoxide alarms. Do you guys know the singer Weird Al Yankovic? Very sad story a number of years ago. Both of his parents died suddenly in their house because of home heating related carbon monoxide poisoning. And they did not have functioning carbon monoxide alarms in the house. So even if you just put one somewhere in your house, we definitely recommend you have one. And incidentally, I'll add in that typically the fatality fires that we have here in Orange County, the one common thread in almost all of them is that there was no evidence of a working smoke alarm in the house. And usually it's not even the fire that results in the fatality, but the smoke. I encourage you all to talk to your families. Make sure everyone is aware of a home escape plan. You want to have 2 ways out of every room if you can, multiple ways out of your house. And the most important thing is making sure everyone knows what the plan is. If you have a plan but no one else in your family does, that's not necessarily going to do your family any good. And again, crawl low and go. Stay underneath that smoke because that's just as deadly as the fire. That was a lot of information to get through. I was trying to not take up too much time, but does anyone have any questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
Anyone?
Thank you.
I do, thank you. I do have handouts on the table back here, so if you want to grab one on your way out. It's got some good tips about holiday home fire safety and holiday kitchen and cooking fire safety. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Berry, and happy holidays to you and everyone at the Orange County Fire Authority.
Thank you.
Thank Chris and Elizabeth Denny. Elizabeth was out here Saturday night handing information out and being a friend to the kids, and they're always at our beck and call when we ask them to show up, so thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to go back a little bit on the agenda to item, let's see, it is 4A. Mr. Mendoza, we have the certification of the election and swearing in of newly elected RCSD board directors by Senator Janet Nguyen.
Thank you. Vice President Searles and members of the board, I'd like to invite our newly elected senator. Congratulations, Janet. And she will be conducting the swearing in for both Ms. Shade and Mr. Maynard. Thank you.
Who wants to go first?
Ladies first.
Yeah, we can do it together.
There we go. Can we do it together?
Yes.
I think they can, right?
Seems more efficient. I'm all about efficiency. Do you want us up there, or? are we good?
Yeah, you might want to be up, yeah. Raise your right hand. Are you ready? Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I would take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
One right here, please.
May I say just a few words? I thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say again, congratulations, and I also wanted to thank the voters of Rossmoor for giving me the opportunity to serve Rossmoor as a senator in the 36th Senate District. And I also ask for your patience. Currently, because it's an open seat, because of the redistricting, we don't have an office nor staff. And so if you can bear with me, we're looking for one. The district has 22 cities, all the way from Artesia all the way to San Clemente. And so we're trying to find a more central location so that everybody can kind of get to us quicker. So I ask for your patience, and hopefully we will be fully up and running with staff and an office around January or February. Again, thank you for giving me the privilege and the honor of representing you and the people in Rossmoor.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next on the agenda, additions to agenda. In accordance with Section 54954 of the Government Code, Brown Act, action may be taken on items not on the agenda, which was distributed if a majority of the board determines by formal vote that an emergency exists pursuant to Section 54956.5. Two-thirds of the board formally votes if less than two-thirds are present, all the board members present vote that there is a need for immediate action, which after the agenda was posted. I am aware of no additions to the agenda. Mr. Mendoza, any additions to the agenda? All righty. Next item is public forum. This forum is reserved for items that are not listed on the agenda, but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Rossmoor Community Services District. However, any matter that requires attention may be referred to staff at the discretion of the board for report and action at a subsequent board meeting. If there's anyone who wishes to speak on anything that's not already on the agenda, you can come forward at this time. Is there anyone on Zoom who's wishing to speak on a non-agenda item? Thank you. Moving on to reports to the board. Item 1D, update regarding potential pickleball program. Mr. Mendoza.
Chair, Sirs, and members of the board. As you recall, the board of directors asked us to give a summary of I guess, emails and written correspondence that we received prior to a meeting. And before you on your dais, I put together a package, but I'll just briefly summarize some of the emails we have received before the meeting today. Michelle Covington sent in a link of a petition that has been signed by 235 Rossmoor residents in support of the idea of pickleball in the community. She's trying to reach 500, and she, like I said, she sent a link out, and I will publicize that. The other one is in favor of pickleball was Linda Fatone, a resident in Rossmoor, saying that she would love to have pickleball and be able to come to one of the parks and play if it was available. Zoe Hagman, a resident of Rossmoor, also was in favor of pickleball and sent in a supporting email. Patrick Williams was not in favor of pickleball, specifically at Rush Park. Catherine Williams also had the same feeling that pickleball should not be added to the Rush Park facility. Carol Churchill sent in a request on behalf of a friend mentioning that if we are considering putting pickleball at either park, that they would be in favor of a strict policy of resident only and some kind of proof of residence in order to limit the number of people playing and limit use of courts by non-residents. And Nancy Nam sent in an email not in favor of pickleball in the community, feeling that it would be an impact to our parks and the surrounding homes. So those are the input we received this last couple of weeks. I'd like to now give you a report on D1, on the pickleball court and the status of where we're at right now. Can you hear me?
A little bit better, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. As you know, this has been an ongoing issue since months ago, and the last time it was in November, and the board gave us direction to do a noise mitigation sound study. So we did that on November 14th. We did an on-site study from 10 to 1 at Rossmoor Park, and we did an on-site study from 1:30 to 2:30 at Rush Park. The on-site study at Rossmoor Park, we used some residents to play pickleball and went around the park taking readings of the sound. And at Rush Park, since we didn't have a court, we simulated it with just playing pickleball and hitting the racket with the ball and taking readings and right outside the back area, because that's probably the only place we would be able to place it if we ever decided to do it here. I am waiting for the results of that study. I should have it in the next couple of days. And we also did a simulated study with another consultant. So there's two types of studies. There's an on-site study where they go around and they pinpoint certain areas and certain homes and certain areas in the park to take readings. And then there's a simulated study. And the simulated study is probably the most practiced study that is taking place right now, because they can take a reading of a pickleball sound, whether it be a hard-hitting adult or an entry-level player that isn't hitting at that quality or that high of a pitch, and they can change the decimals. So they have it in their computer system to where they can get it pretty exact. So we took advantage of doing both, and we think that once we compare them and get a written report on both, we'll be able to be a little more informed in our decision on whether to mitigate sound with blankets or curtains, or feel that, hey, this is just too noisy. We don't feel that that should take place at either park. Who knows? But that's the process we're going through. To summarize, because I believe everybody knows we've tested, we've simulated, we've done all the things we should be doing in order to come to a conclusion. In summary, we all know this is very complex. We know there's for and against. We know that there's issues regarding homes around the areas that feel that they're going to be impacted, and that we are going to come up with either a way to mitigate that, or we're going to look at Rush Park, Rossmoor Park. We're going to look at everything. We're also going to look at cost and of building a new court, of adding sound mitigation at the courts we have, of what else? Oh, policies and procedures. As Ms. Churchill pointed out, one of her friends was mentioning tightening it up and making it residents only, and charging and making certain times they can play. So we're going to take an analysis of all that. We're looking at our tennis use, we're looking at the use of this park, and we're going to provide an analysis along with that sound survey and give you all the variables: the cost to build one, the cost to transform one, the cost to build a new one here, cost to build a new one there, site. Maybe give you a couple ideas of where we recommend a site might be on each facility. And so we want to be as in-depth as possible when we sit down. And the next time I anticipate us getting together with the Parks and Facilities Committee would be sometime in January. As you know, our board reorganizes in January, and the new board president will assign new members to each committee. Right now, I think it's Director Ciro's and it was President Rips that were representing the Parks and Facilities Committee. So once we get our new committee together, we'll set a date. I should have that study completed by then and a report ready to give to the Parks and Facilities Committee. Then in turn, their recommendation will be coming to the Board of Directors. So that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone on the board have any
Oh,
questions?
yeah, I got a bunch of questions.
All right, good. Go ahead, Tony.
So I think it was back in August, I kind of predicted that it's like we're never going to have pickleball in Rossmoor because we're just constantly just pushing it down. We got to do all these studies, and I think the best, while we're looking at sound and doing all this, these studies, it is my belief we should be also playing pickleball to gather more information, just like we did it for the week. So again, when we did it in July for 4 days, I believe I was there 2 or 3 of the days, I didn't see much of an impact. I didn't hear, the sound was not that much of an impact, okay? It's not a drastic change to Rossmoor Park. I would really like to see the district develop a pilot pickleball program so we all can see and hear it for ourselves, okay? Instead of bringing in consultants and having to pay money for them to tell us how loud it really is, why don't we just go play it and see how loud it is? I played it over at Rush Park. It's not that loud, okay? Or Rossmoor Park. It's not that loud, okay? The folks that say we need to, let's build it at Rush. Okay, so start developing and let's see how much that's going to cost to build at Rush. But in the meantime, we have a concrete pad. And again, I know I'm going to get, negative emails over this, but I'm just experienced driving in the evening, driving on Sunday,
I never see all 4 courts being used, okay, never. Are all 4 courts used? Yes, probably. So why don't we just develop this, have the general manager develop a pilot program for 90 days, get that going, get these policies down, have, maybe it's just 3 days a week. 3 days a week, he sets the time, although I would like to have it the same time as tennis. You know, we have lighted facilities. But it's like, we're going to talk about this for another year. And it's paddleball in one of our courts. That's all it is, okay? It's not that loud. Again, I know there are differing opinions, but I can tell you there are tons of people that are in support of this in Rossmoor that don't even come to the meetings anymore. They've been to 6 meetings already, and we're not doing anything. You know, we're doing, okay, we got to do this, and then we got to do this, and then we got to do this. Let's just play pickleball for 3 days a week, for not just a week, but a set amount of time, and gather our own data. That's free. We'll have volunteers come and play. I'll be one of them. I'll come and play. So that's what's on my mind. Everything we're doing is great, okay? But there's a whole bunch of residents that just want to play pickleball in Rossmoor. And they live here. And I don't see the huge, devastating impact it's going to have on Rossmoor Park or Rossmoor by having 2, 3, 4. It's up to Mr. Mendoza, okay? If you want to just have 2 on one tennis court, okay, have 2. You want it, I think 3 days, pick the least impactful days out of the week. Okay, the 3 days that the least amount of tennis players are playing. Okay, and let's just see how it works. Let's see if, you know, the sky's going to fall because we're going to have pickleball at Rossmoor Park. That's what I'm thinking.
Michael?
When I decided to run for office, I called a couple people and asked for their support. And one of the persons I asked, he goes, well, where do you sit on the issues? And I said, well, I'm going to throw this back to you. What is the biggest issue facing Rossmoor? And he said, pickleball. And I literally laughed out loud. I said, that's our biggest issue as a community, is pickleball? So I'm looking, and I read this twice to make sure I did my math. This has been 8 months since the whole concept has come.
Yep.
I see high dollar signs of $5,000 for consulting fees. I also see on page 21, Mr. Mendoza, it's our desire to learn from their experiences. So my question is, what have we learned? I also had questions of, I don't understand the cost associated with hiring a consultant to prepare a negative declaration. I don't know what a negative declaration is or what that's all about. But I think what Tony just proposed brings me back to my college days. I went to Cal Poly and we learned by doing. That was the Polytechnic approach. And I think like having a quick quarterly season, if you will, get some real learning with real experience. I think that's prudent and wise. But I also want to ask you, Mr. Searles, or Vice President Searles, you're actually on that committee that has had this on the agenda for 8 months. Where are you at on this?
Well, I think as we've had the meetings, it's been a deliberate process to actually understand what are the actual impacts to residents of pickleball. You know, the idea of doing it with purpose and not go out and find out it didn't work well is not a way to go about it. Spending the district's money to lay down courts and then decide it didn't work would be wasteful of our money.
That would be.
So we're trying to do a purposeful way of looking at it. You know, I did get to experience the pickleball. I went out with the test that they did on that Monday, November 14th. And what struck me that I wasn't quite as familiar with was as I stood there and I watched the pickleball players play feet from me, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it was loud at all. But it was different when I got to my car. So when I got to the street, I could actually hear the difference of the pitch between being right there. It didn't seem that interesting. But when I got to my car that was, you know, a couple hundred feet away, it was different. So I think, for the main reason, it's to avoid exposure of litigation. I know, Mark isn't here anymore, so, he doesn't have a vote. But Director Nidickman's, concern about litigation is also one I share, because we don't need to unnecessarily get ourselves in litigation over rushing through this. I don't disagree that there are probably votes, and I think most of us actually want pickleball. I want pickleball. I just want it to be done the right way. And that being, why would I rush 2 months in advance if I find out what I really need is just to put, noise mitigation down? But if we don't need noise mitigation, I don't want to spend $12,000 on noise mitigation. So that's where I'm staying.
Okay.
I'm not against it at all. My point is, if we need noise mitigation, why expose the district to some kind of liability by rushing forward today when we're going to get a study that's going to say we needed noise mitigation to avoid? If we have that study and then we can avoid litigation, that's great.
So this is what we went through a few months ago. So now it's noise mitigation, okay? So again, in January, it might be something else. We're waiting on something else. So was it too loud at your car?
What's that?
Was it loud when you went to your car? Was it? I mean, when we played inside in the actual tennis court at 7 o'clock at night, I went across the street. It wasn't that loud to me.
I think the term too loud is clearly relative. And so, all I can tell you is it was noticeably different than I experienced and what I expected. And that's the reason to me that I know my ears aren't perfect. Science can tell us what an actual measurement is. My ears aren't a good measurement. I think that's one of the things from the committee meetings that I really think, sometimes would tear the meetings apart a little bit. It's because people had opinions that were really personal, and they, whether something was too loud to you or to me is really relative. And I think, one of the challenges I had in the committee was someone would say, well, I don't want the noise in the evenings because I want to be able to come home and rest. And then I have another person who says, I don't want it during the day because I work from home. And so this is exactly what I'm telling you. I'm with the idea that you're not going to please everyone and those kinds of things. But I'm just saying, so if something's too loud for someone to work, I don't know that there's an answer. And I'm not looking for that answer the same as I'm looking for the idea that we can have absolute better situations like noise mitigation.
So for the new directors, former director coming back in, I've said this in the past too, that we're focusing on an activity in a park so much, and we're worried about getting sued, okay? But we're not worried about getting sued when we have a winter festival and we take the entire street and impact all those homes there. But we keep on saying, oh my God, we're going to get sued over pickleball because we're going to convert one tennis court for, to see if there's impact or not. Yet we don't do that for any other activity. So it's...
I would say that that's exactly the kind of situation that Director Nidickman would bring up, as there's a history of litigation about pickleball and nuisance. And that's the reason we should be concerned of it. Now, how we decide as a vote how we want to react to that, that's fine. But if you ask me as a committee person, I'm giving you the feelings and what went on in the committee. It was a deliberate process to try to mitigate all those things and give this board the information they need to make a decision.
Yeah, and my question was just to see where your head was at.
My head is...
And you provided that.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone should be making any long-term decisions on pickleball or anything until you have all your facts on our end. My whole thought is, can you do it? Can you do it well? Does it add value to the community? And I know it does add value to the community. Can we do it and can we do well? I don't know. But I think what Tony proposed is a short-term pilot. And in my line of work, you do pilots first before you make commitments, and it's kind of like a feasibility as well as practical experience. So my question now goes back to Tony. Is this an official motion?
No, it's not an action item
But
on the agenda.
But it is on the agenda to talk, and if he wants to make a motion.
Let's hear from our newest member, Joe, first.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeffrey. Yeah, I've been to all the meetings on this regarding this, and I do have a few thoughts on it regarding it as well. I do like the idea of a pilot program. I think that's a great idea. I am completely respectful of the residents that do have an issue with it as well, because I want to be with that. I understand their concerns. So I think it's important for us to make sure that we're not doing anything hastily and costly. Also, I also would like to see some sort of a timeline, like get a schedule going on what, and goals, like time frame wise, as to what we want to have done by what time, date type thing, so that we can give answers and try and get on a schedule where we're not dragging this out forever, basically, and give some, I mean, I'm all about action. I like getting action and making things happen and having a time frame on things so that we don't drag this out forever.
I'd like to make a motion to give General Manager Mendoza direction to create a pilot program to bring to the next board meeting for our consideration. And we can give him discretion to create that, whether it's 3 days a week, limited hours, or what he thinks will work best over a period of time, let's say a quarter, so we can, in real life, in real time, evaluate the effectiveness and the noise issues and all that's involved with pickleball at Rossmoor Park.
I will second that motion.
I'll speak on it. I will say I'm opposed to it only in the sense that I think it would be best handled through the committee, which reorganizing will happen in January, and the committee could direct Mr. Mendoza themselves, the committee and Mr. Mendoza could work through that plan. That would be the only suggestion I'd add to.
The committee's had 8 months to do this, and we're no closer. We're just continuing the study process. Not that we shouldn't continue the studying, but I think we should implement a pilot program and test it out. Now, he'll bring it to us next month. We'll have an opportunity to review it, discuss it, alter it if we think it's necessary, and then ultimately vote on it, yay or nay.
I'd support a motion like that.
Well, it's been seconded.
Yeah, any further discussion?
I do like the idea of during this pilot program, that we reservations and uses for Rossmoor only, Rossmoor residents by reservation and by reservation only. Just my 2 cents to give to the general manager to think when he brings it back.
Okay.
Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and move for a vote for the recommendation for the general manager to explore that.
Well, is this an exploratory, or is he coming back next month?
He's coming back.
He's coming back.
Yeah.
Okay.
The motion is for him to come back with a
With a plan.
pilot program for us to take action on.
I got one question. Mr. Mendoza, when do you expect this sound study to come back?
I should have, sorry, am I on? I should have results early next week.
Okay.
And I've already started compiling all the costs associated with the variable, options we have. And so I would hope to have a meeting after January 10th with the Parks and Facilities Committee and report back with a recommendation, as Director Shade mentioned, some type of timeline in February. So I'm waiting for, I'm gonna have this template ready to go, this agenda report, waiting for the new board member to form the Parks and Facilities Committee to set a meeting after January 10th. That's when we will get our committees. I can set a meeting right after that, and I can be ready to have the Parks and Facilities Committee make a recommendation to the board in February.
But that's not what the,
Yeah,
No,
but-
that's a different item, and
I know, but you asked,
all right, okay.
he asked me when I thought I'd have
Oh,
a
okay.
report. I believe, right? Is that what you
Yeah,
asked?
no, I'm just asking for the sound study.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
Okay.
But even if the sound study, loud, quiet, that's noise mitigation. You can still develop a pilot program for pickleball at Rossmoor Park with or without the noise study?
Sure.
Okay. And I know you're completely qualified to put this program together, so, all right.
So we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. All right, that passes 4-1.
Did you want
Public
to?
address this issue?
Yes.
Carol Churchill, I live on Bloom Avenue. The one request that I make is that a public meeting be called by the board and the general public be invited along with experts to present the data on the sound reports, the information on cost, financial, and a lawyer who will discuss the litigation that has occurred across the country and the liability that the board may have if they proceed with the matter without considering the impact on the quiet enjoyment of people in their homes being impacted if the matter is not considered thoroughly. So if you would please consider that request. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Churchill. If there's anyone else who wishes to address the board on this item, you may come forward.
I'm not even sure where to start. There's been a lot of data, a lot of research, a lot of emails that's been provided to this board over the last several months. There's been many issues that have been raised. We know litigation is a serious issue. There's law firms across the country that are handling lawsuits on behalf of homeowners associations who are being sued, and I realize our CSD is not an HOA. But to compare a winter festival to pickleball, no acoustical studies are required for an annual winter festival. For a farmer's market, there are no law firms handling such things. This is a real issue. There are other issues that have been brought before this board. The disparate treatment between the two parks, the people hours of high-impact activity at Rossmoor Park compared to Rush Park is so easily dismissed, I don't even understand it. Opinions instead of facts. Someone thinks it doesn't sound loud, and yet companies are hired across the country to do specifically acoustical studies because it is well known that pickleball is a unique type of sport. You don't hire engineers for a farmer's market. We're comparing apples to oranges here. In addition, a pilot program, you want to put something into place because you don't want to wait for a study to come through. So a pilot program to determine what? That trial gave us no useful data. It wasn't actually data, it was opinion-based. So what modifications are you going to put into place for this pickleball trial? You have studies that say pickleball should not be within the vicinity of 300 to 600 feet of homes. That's being summarily ignored. And a basis for many of the lawsuits, we're talking about putting blankets to mitigate noise, maybe one side of the court, maybe two, we don't know. So you're willing to spend money on something you don't even know is feasible. It says in the summary that Rossmoor Park is, of course, the most logical because there's tennis courts there already. Again, dismissing the overburden, the high impact at Rossmoor Park. The residents around Rush Park have barely been notified because it's just easier to push it off at Rossmoor Park. And the sole compelling reason for pickleball in Rossmoor is because people do not want to travel a mile or two outside of Rossmoor. And for that, we should spend tens of thousands of dollars potentially. As far as that being the #1 issue for Rossmoor residents, I find that incredibly hard to believe. I am far more concerned about my safety here than I am about pickleball, of all things. So I do not understand how a pilot program can even be considered when we know that it is a noise nuisance that is creating lawsuits across this country. And to just ignore it and say it doesn't sound loud, there is no parking issue, it's not data-based.
Please wrap up the comments. No, thank you so much, though. Take your time.
No, I mean, if people would go back and read these emails and see what has been put together by people, there's research and there's data there. And to just dismiss it and say we want it and we want it now, this is a long-going process in cities and municipalities because it needs to be.
Thank you. Any further comments? You may step forward. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Janice Manis. I live over on Kempton Drive. And I joined the pickleball conversation probably back in September. I have a question because it seems like it's just been sort of bandied about and hearsay and people wanting to do it, so let's do it. Has there ever been a needs assessment of our community that they truly want to have pickleball here? I'm just wondering, who brought the idea? Why was this all started?
Thank you. A public forum isn't a time for dialogue, but thank you so much for your comments. And I will speak to one of the items was that there is a petition with 200 plus supporters of pickleball. I want to say that was stated by the general manager as one of the items that was submitted separately. So some public comment was also that there's 200 plus supporters of pickleball. So are there any comments on Zoom regarding the pickleball topic?
David, do you have any questions? You can unmute your mic. No.
Thank you. We'll move on to item D2. Joe, I don't, any further pickleball? No. All right. Item D2, which is the monthly traffic safety update. Mr. Mendoza.
Chairman Searles, members of the board, I'll give you a brief update of where we're at with our traffic safety update. We have a meeting set for January 4th with our committee. The committee comprises of Director Searles and DeMarco, and 2 RHA members and a couple of members at large from the community.
I'm sorry, what date did you say?
January 4th.
Thank you.
It's a Wednesday. It'll be at Rossmoor Park.
Oh, Rossmoor.
Okay.
Rossmoor.
At that time, we will be submitting, before that, a draft of a letter that we're preparing to go to our traffic engineer, Wei Zhu, and it's going to outline some of our concerns regarding parking along Montecito and along Hedwig and Waldingsford, and we're going to ask her to please consider to do a study regarding the traffic flow and options we might have regarding permit parking and signage and red curbs and anything else she can come up with to make it safer and more livable for those residents in those areas. At that time, we're also going to be providing a option of looking at license plate readers. As you know, City of Los Alamitos, City of Seal Beach, they have license plate readers at certain areas surrounding us. And I've been watching them, and I've been working with Captain Knutson to complement that. So right now, we've had a couple of burglaries, and I want to say just a couple compared to other agencies. And we have relied on some of the cameras that are put up along Catella and Los Al Boulevard and on the Los Al side. And it's worked in our favor in order to see the commonality of those licenses that have been coming into our residents in our community. So we want to give the board an option to consider adding a few at key points and supplementing what's already there. It's not cheap, it's not too costly, but it's something to consider.
Where, Joe?
Kevin Knutson's picked out a couple of sites that, I forget what the name of the streets, but Bradbury, I think, and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind, whose poles would the camera be on?
County poles, yeah, or we'd have to get permission from Los Al or Seal Beach, yeah. But you'll see them, if you go down, Catella, I mean, you go down Los Al Boulevard, be right before Catella, you'll see the little cameras up there, you'll see them up on the poles. And they're very effective, because not only are you getting the license plate reader for here, they probably have them in Stanton, they probably have them all up and down, Orange County and LA County, and it all goes into a database, and you get the commonality of that license plate that, hey, we had a burglar here, and it minimizes, Windows, I guess, dials down to where you can pinpoint who is out there doing this.
Joe, listen, I get why. And in China, they have cameras on every corner to identify every member of the public. So if something goes wrong, the Communist Party can identify who to put in jail and to ultimately put to death. So I'm not saying that obviously that's happening here, but I'd like to hear from our public, because I have privacy concerns about putting cameras in Rossmoor to identify cars that are coming in and out. And I'd also like to know who has access to that data, who doesn't have access to that data, and what are they going to do with that data before we start putting cameras in Rossmoor to identify cars that are coming in and out?
That'll be part of the conversation, and it'll be a presentation that we'll have the consultant to the license plate reader company come out and give a presentation, and along with our captain.
Believe it or not, call it 2 years into my first term, when we had Henry Tabuada as our general manager, we were looking into this because we were having a little bit of a crime spree. And where we ended up with is we were hoping that the electric company would allow us to use their poles. And they said, no, we only coordinate when the FBI says that. So the key to the project is there access to poles where we can buy cameras for the reason of reading license plates. And Director Barkey, it wasn't about monitoring, it was about documenting, and it goes into a recorder that no one's watching anybody. It goes into a access point that only the sheriffs have access to.
Well, I'd like to make sure that.
Oh, yeah, but the goal was never that someone's monitoring where you're going, where you're going, but when all of a sudden there is a crime, there are 4 to 5 camera access that they can go into the documentary of around the time of the event, look for and see if there's anything to help them solve crime. So we tried it a couple, maybe 10 years ago. But the obstacle was who's going to let us put them on the pole?
I'm a little bit dubious of government agencies having access of any kind to this kind of data, because notoriously
they misuse it.
Data breaches and data leaks, and all of a sudden they're using it for purposes that it wasn't intended. So that makes me a little nervous to do that.
Understood.
And again, it's, why are we having all these, catalytic converter thefts, burglaries, is because there's not much consequence to doing bad things in the state of California. So, it's like you got to weigh now that about.
I mean, we can't even get the sheriff's department to tell us when the deputies are supposed to be here, let alone when they actually are here.
Yeah.
But so instead we're just going to put cameras everywhere, and
then
so they can, after the fact, track people down that did the crimes.
Yeah. It's a dilemma.
To be determined.
Any further board comments regarding monthly traffic?
Actually, I had a couple in here.
Thank you.
When I was president a while back, I was the one who initiated this traffic committee and thought that we should have a vision. It should be open to some general public, us, the RHA, and what we need is what is our vision for this community when it comes to speed, safety, traffic. Do we have enough stop signs? Do we have enough this? And I know that I've been out for 2 years, but believe it or not, I've never seen a report from the traffic committee. So I am looking forward to seeing, obviously, priorities is this one case that you're working on, but I'm really hoping to see some vision of what does this traffic committee feel about the future of Rossmoor. I can tell you, I talked to a lot of people when I was running my campaign, and my biggest concern was actually safety, and with it was traffic, parking, and speed. And I said to people on my very first day, which by the way is today, that I would ask our general manager, which is you, Joe, can you have a staff person get in their car and drive every street of Rossmoor, and count how many slow down signs we have? Because I walked a lot of streets and I saw a lot of signs. No, seriously. And I see that as a cry for help.
You mean the yard sign slow down
Yeah.
signs?
How many do we have in our community? I think it's an outrageously high number, and that is the voice of our community. Parents are scared of these fast drivers and their kids, and when you see people actually putting one of those ugly signs on their front yard because it's important to them, I see that as a cry for help, and I would like to know how many are out there. And if it's a big number, and I have a feeling it is, remember, we only have 3,700 homes here. And if we have north of 500 of these signs in our community, that in itself says the community is asking for help to slow things down and make it safer.
Well, I think but definitionally they are. Having Joe or a staff member literally drive and count the signs would be
Traffic committee developed that.
would be super curious and interesting. I don't know that it's
Couple of hours. I want to know, and I told people I would ask, I want to know how many of these signs we have.
Let's just say it'll take more than 4 hours when they travel the 60 miles at 25 miles per hour.
Is there a number of
and stop at
signs
every stop
above
sign.
which you would say there's a problem, or below which you would?
There's 27 street miles within Rossmoor. So
if it's 500 signs, that would
It's
get your
not-
attention. If it's only 200, you wouldn't care.
actually, I think it's just a number that starts a conversation with the appropriate people.
I guess from, our exchanges the last couple of years with the Highway Patrol, our enforcement agency, it's manpower. It starts there. They don't have enforcement manpower. I know we had a resident last week, or last month, or maybe it was the month before, who contacted CHP because someone every day was running a stop sign, and CHP pulled that person over. So it can be done, but I know, as you were talking about the traffic safety, Joe, and Wazoo and Hedwig, congestion on streets is also what those slow down signs are about too. It's because there's a car parked there and then people are going and they know it's just unsafe. We have people going too fast for sure. But our main issue has been enforcement and not having resources from the Highway Patrol. And I know we talk about it all the time. Do we have the resources to pay somebody to come into Rossmoor to enforce the law? It's not, I don't think anyone has a question. There's too many people, obfuscating the law. It's, do we have someone who can enforce it? And right now we have one Sheriff's Patrol
the answer is no.
officer who is not here all the time.
Mr. Mendoza, can you get a staff member to assemble all of our, Director Maynard wants to know our direction for the traffic committee, and so since his 2 years since he's been gone, can you just email him all of our reports? Because there's been a lot, we've done a lot of work with traffic committee that then President Maynard put together, and it's been a very, very good committee. And we've done a lot, starting from larger stop signs on Montecito. We've done a lot of work on Montecito.
Yeah.
We're not, we would love to get the parking problem on Montecito solved, either by allowing parking at the shops or doing other mitigation. Remember when our traffic committee started is from really a resident that complained on Tiger Tail about speeding, which then brought in Public Works. Then we were asking why on some streets is there a dip? Is there speed limit signs on some streets and not at all. And if you notice now, speed limit signs have been added. They've been painted on the street. There's been a whole list of things that Public Works has done. Painting the line next to the cars on the medium, which again, they tell us tends to slow down traffic. But to Director Searles' point, you know, engineering and education, which we've been doing, you need enforcement. And when you have the CHP telling us that, you know, they're down men because of COVID, I know Musselman was out for, I think, a month, and then he's pulled off to do another thing. Again, we're unincorporated. We just don't, you can't, you don't have the focus, the same focus we have as to departments.
Yeah, and I get enforcement. I totally get that it's a lack of enforcement, there's resources. But I also feel that our speeds are also too fast. Montecito is 35 miles per hour, which is faster than some areas of Los Alamitos Boulevard. That makes no sense to me. So, one, if I implied that I didn't think the committee was doing anything, that's far from it. I just never got to see the reports, and if a lot of things, I have noticed I love the red striping on the signs because it gets your attention reflectively. I like a lot of the things that are happening, but I would like to see, like, what's the vision for Rossmoor? Do we have enough stop signs? Is everyone in concurrence that our speeds are too fast? Because if we were a city, we'd be able to make our own decisions going, you know what, we want people to slow down. If we were a city, we could say, you know what, make our residentials 20 and make our double lines 25 on the big ones. We would be able to do that, but we don't. And back to my comment, I'm not trying to add busy work to anyone's life, but we do need facts. We do spend money on surveys and this. Here's a survey that people are putting out on the front lawn. I would like to know how many there are. Again, to me that is, I saw so many. To me that is a cry for help. And I think our speeds are too fast. I think we got a huge issue of parking with the condos that are within Seal Beach and what they're doing to families and making it hard to pick up trash cans. I get all that and I understand enforcement, but there is a data point out there that would be readily available that I think we should know what that number is.
I'd like to just interject a thing here. With all the signs that we have out there in the neighborhood, I mean, people look at those signs and they're an eyesore. They really are. It's like they're littering the community. And they're a good reminder, but it's getting to the point where we really should be focusing on the streets that have the major issues and stop littering our entire neighborhood with them. Because people get to the point where it's like they just ignore them. They're so used to seeing them that they're not impacting the way they should be anymore. They're basically just ignoring them and not really adhering to them in any way, shape, or form. But I'd like to see them limited to just the streets that really need them, because I feel like they are just littering our neighborhood. Just an observation.
No, but that's a good point. I think they're unattractive too. But they're on my street on Tiger Tail because people are driving too fast.
Well, like I said, I'd like to,
and I think it's parents who are scared.
They're no longer effective either.
Right, that's what the whole point of my...
Maybe when they first came out,
Right,
people
that's what
got
I'm
their
saying,
attention. Now they're
exactly.
just
People are ignoring them,
background noise.
yeah. They're just there.
But whether there's 100 or 5,000 of them, and we can stipulate there's a problem, and let's solve it.
100%.
I would just love to have that fact to go to our supervisor. Do you realize there's 600 signs or whatever the number is?
Right.
And there's only 3,700 homes. We have a problem. People are crying for help. We're now coming to you, supervisor, for help.
Speed bumps.
So that's all I wanted to say on item D3.
If I may, you may recall we just had a safety presentation by the sheriffs, and the overriding comment by the sheriffs and prior to that CHP is, please call. The sheriffs and both CHP said their patrol of our areas based on the need and the number of calls they get. We're not calling enough.
Right.
And our residents are not being as aggressive as they should be and just making that call. They log all these calls and then they base their patrol on those calls.
Yeah, and absolutely, Mr. Mendoza, CHP is given a phone number where Officer Musselman will take the call, right? And if you just give him a license plate, he will go and visit the person if they're in Rossmoor, which he's done. But when he comes in every quarter, we ask him, how many calls? How many calls? I got one. You know, and we push it all the time. It's a very good point. We need to continue to push that. To Mr. Searles's thing on because I saw it too on Nextdoor, there is a car that's speeding down Martha Ann and running stop sign multiple times, same car. So if you can take the time to write on Nextdoor, can't you get the license plate and call the CHP? Because the CHP is going to go and do something about it.
So interesting. A call is worth 100 signs.
Yep.
So the people who should need to be educated are
sign
the
should-
people where the signs are. Now we know where to put a flyer.
Maybe our sign should say CHP and the phone number.
And you already know where to drop that flyer off at every single house that has the sign. With the headline, a call is worth 100 signs. I'm in marketing, by the way, so.
I'll just go ahead and say it in a broad scope. Anyone on Zoom wishing to speak on any agenda item, if they could just put what item they want to speak on, and otherwise we will just proceed through. So if anyone wants to speak on street sweeping, please let us know. Otherwise, please put into Zoom which agenda item you wish to speak.
This is Dave Vanderbilt. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So I live on Shakespeare, and it's interesting to me, the speeding, I got to actually borrowed a speed meter and measured a couple days. The main speeding time is from 7:45 to 8:15 with people going down Shakespeare to Lee School. And one of the biggest speeders are the school buses. The school buses are going 35 miles an hour or greater getting to Lee School in the morning around 8 o'clock. Just a data point for you. And so I have one of those signs in my yard. I agree, it probably doesn't make any difference. There's all kinds of signs on Shakespeare, but still, during the normal hours, it's not speeding, it's people going to school, trying to get to Lee School. Just data for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to comment to that. So for that resident, the bus has markings, the bus has a license plate. I would say if it was me, I'm seeing speeding bus, I determine that it's over 25 miles an hour, I would be calling the CHP on that one. And if it happens daily, it's like a recurring problem. Someone needs to go talk to that bus driver.
Someone calls the school district. It's a route.
Yeah.
They know exactly which bus and who's in that route.
Yeah, because that's dangerous.
Moving on to agenda item D4, RCSD Programs and Services Satisfaction Survey Update. Mr. Mendoza.
I believe we're, if I may, I think we're
street
sweeping.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
D3.
Item D3.
And I'll be real brief. At the November 8th meeting, I announced the Public Works had installed Phase 1 and 2 of the street sweeping signage. Phase 3 is ready to be installed in January, and once that's installed, enforcement will take place throughout the district. At the meeting of November 8th, I believe, the board and the resident asked me to look into consideration regarding the cul-de-sacs and breaking them up into just odd or even and making sure they got taken care of by those street sweepers in those days. The sheriff, when I looked into it, the sheriff let me know they could not do that because it would go against the mandated policy on enforcement and our odd even ordinance. So we're kind of stuck with what we have right now, unless we want to revisit having the Board of Supervisors change that ordinance.
About the signs?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Any update on enforcement?
Yeah, it'll, once they're done implementing Phase 3 throughout the community, enforcement will take place.
So Joe, I would like to see where they're writing tickets on a monthly, I'd want a report of when they write a ticket, I believe they put the address it's from or around. I would like to see if every area, not every street, but every area of Rossmoor is getting enforced and when it's getting enforced.
Okay.
There's a monthly report that the RHA puts out with every call that goes.
Yeah, but this is parking citations.
Got it.
And they have that data because it's
Right.
all electronic, so they know exactly where it is. The problem we're having is we put up all these signs now. When 7 signs were fine for 30 or 40 years, okay, as far as I know, Tarquin, as far as I know, the code that Captain Knudsen came in and told the board that they're following to enforce the parking restriction on street sweeping, that's a state code. It hasn't been changed. This isn't a new state code in the last couple of years. This is the same state code that our 7 signs that were up for decades were enforceable under, correct?
Thank you, Director DeMarco. I feel like the wedding singer. I will not sing. So it's a long-standing section of the vehicle code that's been in place for 20, if not more years. The vehicle code has not changed. It is the parking restrictions that have changed, not the vehicle code.
And indeed, it is a state code, not a county?
It is the vehicle code. It is the vehicle code that they are citing under, not the county code.
So the spirit of that law, when we're being told by the captain and the commander that on every entrance into a Rossmoor street, no matter how small, that must be posted.
That is in essence the county's position. Previously, I know we walked through this before, but previously when there was only one parking restriction in the district, throughout the entire district, under the county's interpretation of the vehicle code, then signs only needed to be posted at the 7 major entrances to the district. The county's position, Sheriff's Department position in analyzing the requirements of the vehicle code is that now that there are alternating parking restrictions depending on the day, then each street needs to be separately signed.
Okay, so along that line, Tarquin, Bostonian's a long street, okay? Why then at every intersection in Bostonian must there be a sign?
That is their interpretation of the vehicle code and likely county council's interpretation of the vehicle code, who they go to for legal advice.
Do you concur with their interpretation?
It is a more defensible interpretation in court in order to ensure courts uphold the citations.
So the other thing too, Joe, from last month or the month before, is the residents that were complaining when there is a L in some of our streets where on one part of the street it's odd and then it turns to even. They put a sign right at that apex, that 90 degree, and many times it's literally right in front of their living room window, or they're right next to their driveway. So, and again, I know we're probably going to need all of those examples, but I know that there was. It's just so again, and so the consequence of all that is you got upset residents that are saying, God, I got a sign that I can see from my living room.
It's the consequences of not being a city.
Yeah, and it's just, again, had they been forthcoming with this, we might have made a different,
Yeah.
the ordinance change would have been different. Not so much odd even, it's just like a layout. Here, this section is, you know, is going to be on Tuesday, this one's going to be, here's the map. But,
Kind of like districts.
yeah, well, just one side and the other side. The way that the odd and even didn't work. But again, the assumption back 2, 3, 4 years ago was, well, we only need 7 signs anyways. We just got to amend those signs, not put up 380,
Right.
you know. So they forgot, they didn't tell us that one either.
Right.
Okay. And then, again, the recurring one is, if you're not going to come in and enforce all of Rossmoor, what do you need all the signs for? Right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't actually believe the enforcement is going to be different than it has been.
I know. Well, and that's, no, I don't feel it is. Okay.
That's a hard one.
I know.
Agenda item D4, RCSD Programs and Services Satisfaction Survey Update. Mr. Mendoza?
Yes, Chairman, Shares, members of the board, as you recall, we were out with our satisfaction survey to the Rossmoor residents. A postcard has went to every home, and we're right in the middle of this. We made a push at our community festival. We need to make a bigger push. I'm going to be working with nonprofits such as RHA and some other, the chamber, and asking them to make a bigger push. Right now, today, I did an audit of how many surveys we have received, and it's only 210. That's not good.
How many were sent out, postcards?
We went to every home.
3,600.
So it's time to make a big push. I've made some calls. We're going to get on social media. We're going to put more posters up and things like that, and we're going to try to promote it even more. Last time we were, I believe 2 years ago, we received about 625. So if we were able to get that many or more, I'd be somewhat thrilled. But right now, it's been a tough time. We'll keep pushing. But last time, I don't think we went to each home even. Anyway, we're on it. So please push it. There's a QR code, and
It is.
we'll be promoting it.
Let's create it.
If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All righty. Next item on the agenda, item E1A, minutes, the regular RCSD meeting minutes of November 8th, 2022. I don't believe we can go through consent, given that 2 of the 5 directors were not present. So I guess we just go ahead and have it formally done. I guess, Mr. Mendoza, you just present the minutes, introduction.
Looking for approval of the minutes of the November 8th meeting.
I'll move approval.
A second. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Those abstaining?
Aye.
You would abstain.
Aye.
You weren't here.
Aye.
So we have 3 ayes, 2 abstaining. Thank you.
Wow, nothing else.
Next item is E2, the status of the July through October 2022 revenue and expenditure reports and current LAIF and U.S. Bank balance through December 2nd, 2022. Mr. Mendoza?
Yes. Director Searles, members of the board, or Chair Searles, members of the board, excuse me. As you know, we've went to a different contract with our accountant, as well as a new accounting program, and that would be Black Mountain. And we're in the middle, I guess, rectifying a bunch of accounts within our budget in order to make sure the revenue and expenditures are going to the right areas. So we're meticulously going through each account each month and moving monies around to make sure it's accurate in order to make a good judgment within our upcoming budgets. So The best I can do for you right now, and we're getting close. We're getting close. I mean, we spent hours on this, and I want to really give a compliment to our new accountant. He is breaking it down to the penny, and I have a lot of confidence in him, and he's diligent, and he will not back down and say, hey, oh, we're over 20 bucks, or we're under 20 bucks, that's close enough. He's getting it to the penny, and that's the way he works. And so the best I can do for you today is to let you know we're in a good financial situation. If you look at our LAIF, our Local Agency Investment Fund, we have $1,157,834.66 in our LAIF account. That's our long-term account, compared to last year where we had 1.082. So we're about $74,000 to the good right now. And we have about approximately the same money in our U.S. bank, which we use as a checking account. And we're constantly, maybe every other month, moving monies back and forth. We do have another $500,000 I'm anticipating will be coming to us in the next 2 weeks from our tax increment. So as you know, we do get large increments maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and we have another one coming at us. Then we just start working off that. So I will have, and I promise, I will have a report to you in January for up to November. We're always a month behind. Yeah. So you will be caught up with every line item in our budget in January. And at that time, I'd also like to, when we get our budget committee, have a meeting with our budget committee to have our accountants sit down with you and make sure that they understand where we're at. Okay? But that concludes my report.
Any of the directors have any questions? I think I probably speak for the board in saying that it's critical that we do get that report in next month. It's
Yes.
been too long to not see those regularly.
Yeah, I need it too.
Okay.
I need to see where we're at in certain accounts, yes.
All righty. That wraps up the normal calendar. Public hearing, none. Resolutions, none. Ordinances, none. Regular calendar, nothing. Mr. Mendoza, your general manager items.
Yes, sir. Chair, Sears, and members of the board, one of the ones I'm really, I guess, excited about is we're bringing on a new administrative assistant in January. And I would have brought her here tonight. We're in the process of getting her through and payroll and signing papers and things like that, but she will be starting January 3rd. Tonight was her birthday, so I told her, hey, you don't have to come to this. But I'm excited. She's a seasoned administrative assistant and has good experience, and I think she's going to bring a lot of calm and a lot of a process to our district. So in addition, I've hired a social media intern part-time, probably 12 hours a week, and found that intern through USC. We have a resident here that's the chair of the communication department at USC. And so I asked her if she would help me out. She turned me on to 2 or 3. We interviewed them, and we're pretty happy with the process we're going to come up. We have a forum. Our staff will be able to give the intern the communication, and she'll either use, like tonight, the fire authority. I've already sent that to her. You'll see a blast out. She'll doctor that up, put it out, or she can initiate a brand new flyer or blast for us, depending on what we want. So we're looking forward to that. I think I've showed a couple of you a room we're doing, but we have over, I don't know how many years, 1987 worth of files here in the district that are in a number of places and are duplicated 3 or 4 times in different files. So we're purging them all right now, and it's been a process. We're probably right in the middle of the process, but the goal is to purge them, relabel them, minimize them, make them very concise, and then digitize them. And we also have an off-site historical documentation company that's holding some of our boxes. We're going to get those we will not need to pay for that. We're paying a monthly stipend to have some old documents, we don't even know what they are. So we're going to bring them in, purge them, make sure that we're, again, not duplicating them, and we're getting down to that nitty-gritty to where it's going to be organized, and we know where everything is. I want to, Josh, would you put up the Los Al Chamber of Commerce annual holiday breakfast? You know, we're in the Commerce, there's Joe Shade, and that's the principal of Los Al High. We had a breakfast here that we hosted last week. Can you go to the next slide, Josh? And there's Principal Andrew Pulver and some of our residents. Next. This is, Joe, help me here. This is, what are they? This is their dance ensemble and choir?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Next one. And then, of course, and again, we should be proud that we hosted that here and that our facilities used in that fashion. And I did it for a number of reasons. We're involved in the chamber, but it also highlights our facility. We hand out information to try to get rentals. We do get sponsors from some of those local vendors that we had in the building with us. So it's a good relationship with the chamber. The next one up, of course, is just this last Saturday. And these pictures are via Ms. Director Shade. And go ahead, Josh, just go move through them. It was a good night. You were there. There was a lot of people. And I believe everybody had a great time. And we're meeting tomorrow morning to evaluate it and even make it better. So thank you for coming out. It was fun. And it's great to see families interact like that and make those memories. And that's what it's all about. Okay, then November 8th, board meeting. That was, and we'll continue to do this on any item on our agenda where I'm getting comments throughout the week or before 3 o'clock on the day of the board meeting, and I'll be providing a summary like the one we had today, and I'll scan it to you if you have time to read it before the meeting. If not, it'll be at your desk.
Thank you, Joe.
Also want to, I guess, give a shout out to our staff. This was a big week with the breakfast and with the Winterfest and then keeping up our facilities on an ongoing basis. And we have a great chemistry going on right now, and I'm really happy with them. We're going to a Christmas lunch for our staff on this Friday, and Mr. Ruth and Mr. Tabata will be there, and so it's going to be a good time. We have a couple other. We invited a couple of church members that, quite frankly, volunteer more than some of our staff work, and more than I work. They're here all the time and part of the family, so they'll be coming also. Okay. But that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Any of the directors have any comments about Mr. Mendoza's report?
I just want to say the event was great. And yes, I'd like to say thanks to our staff as well, because I know what they do, and they do a phenomenal job. I think it's great. Good shout out for them. And the event was wonderful, and so was the breakfast. Huge. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, I would echo that. Saturday, the event was great, Joe. It was really incredible. Yeah, that's all. Just seeing everyone hustle and the smiles of the families that were attending, the attendees was great. So, moving on, next item I believe is director's comments, correct? Yeah, board member items. Mr. DeMarco, do you want to start?
Sure. Not too many. I concur with Stayed festival for a couple hours. No big pushback from the neighbors. No, great. I like how you took over the street. It enhanced the parking lot. Finding Ted Holcomb to run these was a great job, Joe, and he does an outstanding job. And we missed the rain by one day, which was great. I know he told me he had 2 that he had to do the next day, and it was going to rain all day. And they still wanted him to put it on. So glad that didn't happen at our event. But I too, Joe, staff did a fantastic job. Chris did a fantastic job in just providing the community with such a great event. And of course, yourself. But that's about it. Just want to wish everyone happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.
Sure, thanks. I want to start off with, it's good to be back. I want to thank the community for entrusting me with this position, my many friends and family who helped me walk the streets. As the Beatles say, you get by with a little help from my friends, and I definitely appreciate everyone who helped with that. I also want to echo that I had the pleasure of working with Jeffrey Rips for about 3 years when he was on the board previously. He did a phenomenal job when I was there, so I understand it is a little bit of a loss to see Jeffrey go. It's ironic because he wanted to be on the board when I was, and I wanted to be on the board when he was, so he and I laugh about that.
Missed it by that much.
Just by that much. So he's a friend and always will be, and just a good character and a good man. I also want to welcome the first female voice within Rossmoor since 2011.
Thank you.
Joe Shade. It's something that's been missing, and we look forward to your perspective. And lastly, a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year for all. Please be safe during these seasons, and have a great time and concentrate on what's important. That's it.
Director Shade?
Thank you. Yes, I'm honored to be on this position. I thank the community most of all, and this new board. I'm honored to be up here with you guys, every single one of you, and to represent the female gender from a very long time. I too hit the streets out there, and so I was with you, Michael, and got to speak with our residents firsthand, and it was really nice. It was really great, I have to say. It was enlightening, and I love doing that sort of thing because I'm a big people person. I want to wish everybody a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas. May you enjoy everything that's coming up and spending time with your family, friends, and loved ones, and I wish you well. Be safe. Thank you.
Director Barkey?
I just want to say thank you to Jeffrey Rips. He's an honorable man. I agree with him that public service is worthy, and he stepped up and served. We didn't always agree, but I do respect his service and the effort that he put in helping out on the RCSD. Joe, welcome. Nice to have you. Michael, welcome back. It's great to have you back. Joe, thank you for the chocolate. And Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy Hanukkah. And I look forward to a great 2023.
I have 2 items, actually, of business. One being, I think I'd speak on behalf of the board, Joe, and I should have mentioned this during your item, is getting ahead of CR&R's holiday trash pickup and the tree collection so that our next meeting, we don't spend a lot of time wondering why no one's got their tree picked up yet. So if we could make sure that gets addressed.
Proactive?
We spent a lot of time last January, I think even February's meeting, talking about CR&R, and it wasn't about the 3-bin system yet. This was just holiday trees. On that, though, was one item I'd love to see, given our 3-bin systems at our residences, is a 3-bin system for our festivals, so that we have trash, recycling, and green waste being separated at our festivals, if we can do that. And I understand that's a logistics thing, and you'll know whether it's feasible or not, Joe, and I just would ask staff to explore that. Blood drive is coming up. I'm going to participate, hopefully not tomorrow, but next Wednesday, the 21st. Tony and I have a traffic meeting on January 4th, 7 o'clock, Rossmoor Park, not here.
Yeah, we better remind us, Joe.
Yeah.
We did that last time.
We'll see the caravan of cars going from here to Rossmoor Park at 7 o'clock. So I hope people who are interested in traffic will attend. Again, thank you to our sponsors, staff, the performers Saturday, Terry Miller and Friends, Gerald, who was doing solos, was awesome. Tonight, thank you to Haley Dunn, Troop 657G, Senator Nguyen, talk about getting a title back, former senator, now senator again. So thank you to her for attending. Congratulations to her on her election. Thank you to Director Rips, Director Nittickman. Welcome back, Michael. Welcome, Joe. I know we've all been there in the last 2 years. Getting out there and talking with people and the work you did to get elected is already itself commendable, and so welcome and thank you. Lastly, this is probably the only meeting I'll get to chair, maybe ever. So I want to thank Chris Berry of the Orange County Fire Authority, mainly because he had a Christmas Vacation reference, and that's my favorite holiday movie. And so with that, I'm thankful that I got to chair a meeting with a Christmas Vacation reference. I think that is all. If any other board member has anything further. General counsel items. Tarquin, I do have, I guess, a preview question of, do we have continuing education or any compliance stuff that we need to take care of soon for our newly elected, or just that it's been 2 years since our election?
Yes, you have the biannual requirements for AB 1234, and I'm sorry, the conflict of interest provisions. And then the directors, I have drafted and will be sending to the new directors a new directors memo that details all the requirements and the deadlines for compliance. So as soon as I can get a press send and I have the director's new emails, it will go to the entire board as a refresher.
All righty. Did you have anything further?
I just want to say happy holidays, everyone. I want to say welcome back to Director Maynard. I want to say welcome to the board, to Director Shade, and I look forward to working with both of you.
Thank you.
Any further? No? With that, at 9:03, we are adjourning the meeting. Thank you. Thank you.